time zones in Australia. Now there's a topic that can make your head spin faster than a spin bowler on a cricket pitch. It's a curious and often confusing aspect of life down under, especially when daylight savings rolls round and adds another layer of complexity to the mix. Let's have a leisurely wander through this temporal maze and see if we can make sense of it all. Australia, sprawling across a vast expanse of the globe, naturally falls into multiple time zones. In fact, we have three main time zones: Australian Western Standard Time, Australian Central Standard Time, and Australian Eastern Standard Time. But it doesn't stop there. No, that would be too simple. During daylight savings, which some states observe and others don't, things get a bit more complicated. You see, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Tasmania, and the Australian Capital Territory shift their clocks forward an hour for daylight savings. But Western Australia, Queensland, and Northern Territory opt out of this annual time warp. So, why the divide? The reasons are as varied and colourful as Australia itself. In Western Australia, for example, there's a feeling that daylight savings isn't necessary due to the state's already abundant sunshine and evening light. In Queensland, it's partly about the effect on the agricultural sector, where the timing of daylight matters for the routines of both farmers and their livestock. And in the Northern Territory, the proximity to the equator means there's less variation in day length throughout the year, making daylight savings less relevant. But let's delve into the practical implications of this timekeeping tangle. Imagine you're in Sydney, planning a conference call with colleagues in Perth and Brisbane. You've got to navigate not just the 3-hour difference between Sydney and Perth, but also remember that Brisbane, despite being on the East Coast, doesn't observe daylight savings like Sydney does. It's enough to make you long for the simplicity of a sundial. This time zone tango can lead to some amusing scenarios. Friends and family across state lines sometimes find themselves an hour apart for half the year, leading to mix-ups with phone calls or virtual meetups. It's a quirk of Australian life that adds a bit of spice to our already colourful culture. Now, for those living near state borders, especially in places like Tweed Heads in New South Wales and Coolangatta, Queensland, the time difference can be a daily reality. You could literally hop across the street and jump forward or backward in time. It's like living in your own little time travel story, minus the sci-fi gadgets. Daylight savings itself is a topic of much debate in Australia. Proponents argue it saves energy, encourages people to be more active in the evenings, and is good for business. Critics, on the other hand, argue that it disrupts sleep patterns, complicates timekeeping, and isn't as energy efficient as claimed. This debate bubbles up every year, as regular as the seasons, with passionate voices on both sides. In a broader sense, the way Australia handles time zones and daylight savings is a reflection of our diverse and decentralised nature. It's a country that's not afraid to let different states and territories march to the beat of their own drum, to do things their own way, based on their unique circumstances and needs. So, while navigating Australian time zones might require a bit of mental gymnastics, it's all part of the charm and the challenge of life on the vast and varied continent. It's a reminder that in Australia, even time isn't quite as straightforward as it seems. But then again, it's just how we like it. A little bit unconventional, a little bit quirky, and always full of surprises.